lot of guidebooks, and I thought my tombstone would have he did guidebooks, and I didn't like to be known just for doing guidebooks. And our next speaker is probably too much known for creating Generation X. And the last big story on him in the New York Times was about his design work. Multifaceted man, Doug Coupland. I won't say a word.
Okay, and how do we turn this thing on?
It's on. It'll be on.
Is it on?
They'll put it on.
Can you hear me at the back?
Well,
No? Okay.
well, it isn't on. Magically, it will go on.
All right. This
Whoa.
always happens.
Thanks a lot.
How's that? Is that working? Oh, good, thanks. Sandra, that was a wonderful presentation you just made. I wish you would find the part of the brain that allows people to remember people's names at cocktail parties. As I get older, I'm finding I'm pretty good with numbers. I know my FedEx number and my Visa number, and a few years ago when I was living in Ontario, I got my OHIP number, and it was 234567888. And I thought they'd accidentally given me like the John Doe number or something. And then long after I left Ontario, I stayed on OHIP just because of the magic number.
You're having a pause. Let me just say, could we not take flash photography in here, please? Whoever's doing it over there.
Also, I spoke briefly with Adam Agoyan in the lobby, and he said that I should say the future is about being Amish. Now, I know we're not supposed to write speeches or anything like that, but unless I made a few crib notes, I ended up talking about what I had for dinner last night. It is a pleasure to be here in Toronto, our nation's capital. Now, my only instruction before coming to TED is that we're supposed to be talking about what's on our mind recently. And what happened was I was in March, I was in London, and I was in Piccadilly. And I really needed to know what time it was. And so across the street, there's the Rolex, factory outlet. It just is thousands of Rolex watches in the window. Fantastic. So I crossed the street, looked in the window, and every single watch in the window displayed a different time. And it was like that Beatles song where someone spoke and you fall into a dream and suddenly you don't know where you are in time or space. And I haven't been able to get over it since. And so in last month, a few months, which has been a lot of time thinking, then I was in Denver, and there's this hotel there called the Brown Palace, and some of you may have been there before. It was built, turn of the century, and they had these buckets in the corner. And what are those? Like, oh, they're spittoons. What? Yeah, those spittoons. And I got to thinking and the future is not about being Amish. The future is about spittoons. Because if you're to take a person from 100 years ago, like Yosemite Sam, and you bring him to Toronto, and he's out in the lobby out there at coffee break, he's like, dang, I've got an oyster the size of the Hope Diamond that I've got a, like, no spittoons, what kind of culture is this? And now, the point of that is that things tend to change very quickly. And the way I go about, actually, there's this joke I want to tell you. Little kids love it. And if you're like most people, like I have one joke slot in my brain, and the moment I learn one, the other one kind of pops out. So this is the joke. Hey, have you heard about the new pirate movie? Oh no, it's rated R. I can't believe I wasted your time on that one. Now, back to spittoons. You know, what will be the spittoons of tomorrow? There's this old Cary Grant, Ingrid Bergman movie. It's Notorious, Miami, 1945. And they're at this party, and everyone at the party is just getting sloshed. And Ingrid Bergman's like, oh, I'm so drunk. I haven't been this drunk in ages. Carrie, let's go for a drive. And so they're just like, woo, and like, cop pulls him over, like, you kids been drinking? Oh, officer, it's a lovely night, we're so drunk. Be careful. And like, as an added bonus, they're smoking. And then some of you may or may not know that I'm very into the Cold War, like anything about it. And my younger brother got me one of the best Christmas presents of all time, which was the history of the US nuclear test program in a series of 8 VHS tapes. So, spittoons of tomorrow. Well, we're here with these lucky young lads in a trench just 1,000 feet from ground zero, Frenchman's Flat, Nevada, where we're going to be detonating a 1.3 megaton device. But first, our boys in brown, they're going to light up a mentholated charcoal filter king Lucky. Like, so they're all puffing away like Krusty the Clown. Time for the bomb. Okay, guys. And then the bomb goes off, and they're like about that far away from it. And then they all like, and they're smoking cigarettes and like charging into this like nuclear hell brew. It's things change. Why my memory? The reason I have a FedEx envelope with me here is because my plane ticket is in it, and if I don't have it with me, I'll forget about it. And the thing about a FedEx envelope is if you want to be invisible in a metropolitan setting, just carry one of these. You vanish. No one looks at you. It's like you've become a neutrino or something in the system. So we're talking about like 100 years. We've all been to museums where they have like dioramas where they got stuffed like extinct species hunting other extinct species. And they've got I was at the Glenbow Museum in Calgary earlier this year, and they had 100 years of prairie life, and you go in, and it was very well done. I mean, they had every conceivable artifact from the prairie, from certain kinds of plows to Fisher-Price baby nursery monitors. And I was with someone, and we went through it, and afterwards down the street, wow, wasn't that just like a great diorama presentation? Like, oh, we live inside a diorama. It's called Everyday Life. And, I always feel like if you want to know what's going to happen, boy, I'm glad I have notes here. Okay, I'm going to get random, but it comes back. Last night, I was at the hotel. And when you travel, you always generate a large amount of trash. It's like plastic wrapping, luggage tags, Toblerone wrappers from the mini bar, just it's junk. No one ever saves trash. Like, in fact, if you could save a bucket of business travel trash from June year 2000, it would be like one of those Andy Warhol time capsules or something. It might actually be valuable in the future. And boy, I'm feeling random today. This is good. I was typing the date yesterday, and I typed in 2000, but I made a mistake. It was 22,000. And suddenly, shit, there's going to be a year 22,000, And I'm going to be dead. I'm not going to get to see it. And I suddenly got really jealous of the future because I wanted to be in the year 22,000, but I'm not going to be there. And it just kills me not knowing that I'm going to be able to see like 2,100, let alone 22,000. And I mean, it's the 100 years thing. I think people can only think about the future about as far as the year they think they're going to be checking out, which for me is 2037. And in my head, that's always been it. And so it's really hard for people to think beyond what their self-perceived biological shelf life is. Let's think of Canada, for example. Is Canada, as we know it now, going to be configured and the same way it is now in 1,000 years from now? No. 500 years? No. 100 years? No. 20 years, maybe. Is Alberta going to separate first before Quebec? Or, what if we lose New Brunswick in a poker game or something? We all know that at some point, Canada is going to change, and it's inevitable, and the States is going to change too. But why is it so hard to sort of, in our heads, to try and figure out what it is that sort of pivotal change moment is going to be? And again, it's look around you. What are the things? Okay, oh God, I can't believe I'm going to talk about Generation X, but I am. And I never do that, but it just hit me. One of the weird things about Generation X, whatever it is, was that when I finished the book, which was 89, and handed it in, I just got this great big shitstorm from my publisher down in the States because they said, "You're writing about something that doesn't exist. This is crap. Give us back our money." This is like, And no, I really think that there are like people out there who are younger. Like, no, they're not. There's just us, and we are the baby boom. And finally, in the end, the book got published not because they wanted to, but it was a combination of the kids who worked in the mailroom saying, "You got to publish this thing," and they got in these big arguments. And then finally, it was somehow cheaper to publish it than not to publish it. And that's St. Martin's. They got bought by the Germans years ago, and the players are all gone from the game, so you can talk about it now. But I always try and look for, and it's not just to write about it or anything, what are the things that are so big that they're invisible? What's going to be gone tomorrow? And usually you just have to look around. Is it going to be, in 100 years, what would astound someone about looking at this audience here tonight? Like, I have a bit of a sunburn. I was in Florida last week. That could be very weird to a person 100 years from now. Men and women are seated here equally. If you go shopping in a mall in Florida, everyone wears sweats. And a person from 100 years from now might think that, are these people all getting ready for surgery or something? Actually, Rem Koolhaas has this wonderful expression. He says it's kind of something sexy about people wearing sweats to a mall. I disagree. All of us have an ability, if we really push it, to figure out what's going to happen. Not just before your checkout date, but after that too. And I think it is something we're born with, and it might be next to the parietal lobe, or they'll find it. It's the future lobe or something. And I really think that if I was in charge of a school system, I would have, reading, writing, arithmetic, although that sounds somehow archaic, 3 R's, whatever they may be, plus the future is right from grade 1 onward, it should be, twice a week, your class in the future. What will it be? What will it not be? How do you see it? What frightens you about it? What do you want to make happen in that future? We just have this really weird relationship to time in our culture. No one has it anymore. And I think in this room in particular, if you were to take the people in this audience and take an equal number of people just out in the street, you would probably have less time than those people. Probably because you do all sorts of weirder things with your brain and with your head and with your information. But so time's so rare and it's valuable and we don't have it. And we want it. We really want more time. That's the one thing everyone wants. And yet, if someone sends you a Christmas gift that's really elaborate and took a lot of labor on their part to make, you go, ooh, someone has too much free time. So, which do you want? I mean, was it a year ago? Almost a year ago, last summer, wonderful opportunity. Certainly one of the most interesting things I've ever done. It was in Santa Monica. Spent 2 days in a hotel, like catering or a banquet room with some people and with Steven Spielberg. And he's making a movie of the old Philip K. Dick story, The Minority Report. And what he wanted was, rather than have some kind of bogus art department future, he wanted to know what the future might really be like. And so we just spent 2 days locked in this room, and if I never see another muffin or a bagel, it'll be too soon. What's the future of domesticity? What pets are we going to have? What are the drugs going to be? How do we get from A to B? What is A going to be and what is B going to be? And it's just this core dump of ideas about the future. I've heard a rumor that he wants to take up the AI project from Stanley Kubrick, which I really, really hope he does. And maybe he can merge them, I don't know. He's a wonderful person. But we talked about drugs of the future, and the drugs plural, that I came up with were called, one was called Time Plus. And what it was, it's psychotropic, but you take it and you don't feel anything immediate. But what happens is, a year later, instead of saying, where'd time go? You say, wow, that was a long year. And I think in our own way, we're all searching for time plus at the moment. And of course, there was the corollary, which was time minus, which, if you're in prison or you take it and it makes it go like that. This has all been kind of random and kind of fun, and I've enjoyed it. And then, and I think that there's no real core thesis here other than that. No better way to learn about the future than just looking really hard at the present. And I hope that I don't forget my plane tickets. And I hope I didn't make you yearn for some time minus while I was up here. And I've enjoyed everything I've seen people up here on stage so far. Hope it continues. And thank you. And I just love saying that.